A few streams ago, I made the point, the comment that the whole "go woke, go broke" mentality, our banner, just doesn't work anymore. It should. We all know logically it should, but these companies, the Hollywood ideologues, they're not operating like any kind of logical business. They're not. Preaching their agenda is infinitely more important than making any money. They've proven that. So we do know this. We know that the companies are not interested in a profit. They're simply not. Otherwise, explain to me the sequel to Cruella already greenlit. Explain that to me. They're not interested in profits, guys. Some people in the company are, sure. Stockholders surely are. But the people in charge, the people making these calls and greenlighting these series or making this choice where we're going to do this series and not this series and so forth, they don't care. They don't care. And we're nowhere near a place where the organization of these companies is to the point where they can be made or ousted. The disease, the cancer, so to speak, of this wokeism ideologies just is so ingrained in these companies. And I'm not saying it's not some secret, it's not like Hydra exists, the Hydra of SJWs or something like that. I'm not saying that, but it's been growing. It has been growing within our systems. As I've said, it came from academia, and it's infiltrated different parts of society through governments, teachers coming out and trying to indoctrinate children and so forth. And it's there. If things ran according to a logical business, they would see that people aren't interested in these movies, and they would stop making those kind of movies, right? They would stop making the live action Disney remakes. They would stop making the live or the villain centered films. They would stop making the films that pandered to the woke ideology. They would stop it with the Mary Sue type characters, who can do no wrong. They would do all of that. The fact that Disney can try and pander to the Mandalorian fans with one hand, and then with the other hand talk about all of their Kathleen Kennedy run series that they're still putting out there, and they're indelibly linked to the Disney sequel trilogy series that they're putting out there, as the Mandalorian is too. People are just in this sort of insane denial about it. I mean, everybody's admitted it. Jon Favreau, Filoni, everybody's admitted it. But they are realizing, though, there's one thing they care about. So they don't care about profits. Then what do they care about? They care about spreading their doctrine. And they can't spread their doctrine if you're not watching their movies. We've seen this before. Remember, we saw this with the Birds of Prey film, the Harley Quinn, fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn, whatever that horrible movie was. And you remember when it came out and it was tanking. It was doing horribly. And the feminists everywhere were so mad. They were so mad at these evil hetero white men who won't go see that movie. Nothing about that movie says it would be appealing to anybody but a feminist. But if you weren't of their ideology already, then you should still pay your money and go and sit in that seat and listen to that message, and you let it seep in and you be preached to. It was the same thing with the Ghostbusters 2016 horrible thing. Feminists everywhere were so mad at us for not going and supporting that. So they do worry about whether or not we are in the seats to be preached to. And to a certain degree, they, on the surface, they might not even care about that so much, because their hatred of anybody that doesn't agree with them is such that, on Twitter exchanges or whatever, if you don't agree with them, you're automatically ignorant or evil. And the ignorant will very easily come over to their side. Anybody who gives them the slightest bit of resistance is evil and deserves to be canceled in every way. But, at some point, I think they are starting to realize it's kind of like the Joker. The Joker can't really keep being the Joker if Batman's not there. If Batman leaves, if Batman dies, what's the Joker doing any of it for, right? Because no one's there to validate him in opposition. That's what the ideologues are. Their whole system, their whole ideology is based on being a victim. And if no one's there victimizing them, or no one's there to be told about how much they're being victimized, then they're just, in a vacuum, and their existence becomes pointless in terms of their woke idealism. So they need that. They need us for that. And if we're not paying attention to them, that's the worst thing you can do. The absolute worst thing you can do to the woke ideologues and all of these properties and franchises and things they've infiltrated is ignore them. Ignore them. Spread the word about how they're bad, but do not watch them. Make them irrelevant. Stop squeeing about it. Stop saying, oh, maybe this will be that. Maybe this will be that. We'll get into some more of this in a second. So they will set up and take notice when there's no one around for them to tell how much they're being victimized to. There's no one around for them to blame and so forth. They're not going to stop preaching their agenda. But they will, as I call this stream, it's the new tactics. We do see that they are starting. It's not across the board yet, but they're starting to try some new tactics to try to bring people back into the seats, whether that's in front of their streaming service or in the theater or whatever, so that they can preach their message. Joker. One of their tactics, one of their tricks is to pre-establish the field for you to choose a side on. This is a trick that academia does all the time. This is a trick that, people, young kids, especially are even into grad school and whatnot, growing up, they're impressionable. And what is it ideally? What should higher education be? It should be a place where you learn how to independently think and to come up with your own conclusions and add your own thoughts and philosophies and answers to the world, right? That's ideally what it's supposed to be, but it's not. We all know that. But children don't, students don't, young adults don't. And the lie of higher academia, especially like graduate schools, the great lie of it is that they're teaching you to think for yourselves. And they contextualize it as they're the great liberator of the evil conservative society, So they'll say, for example, when I was working on my master's on English literature, it became very clear that you were only really allowed, or you would only be advanced, you would only be successful if you chose from one of the pre-approved critical theories, which are all of the same political philosophical mindset. So it was really ridiculous. They're telling you, okay, you independent thinker, get excited because now you get to choose whether or not you're going to be a feminist theorist, a Marxist theorist, a queer theorist, or a post-colonial theorist. Isn't that amazing? You get 4 choices, which are all the same. Every single one the same, go hand in hand. Those were the only ways you'd advance or you would get any kind of career in the field, just flat out. And it's become worse since I was there. That's why I switched to an MFA in creative writing, the terminal degree there, because it was, far better, at least in some institutions. But that's the same thing. That's what these companies are trying to do. They're trying to pre-approve and pre-define a certain field for you to choose a side on. So when Cruella came out, automatically you saw a lot of sites in support of Cruella trying to pit it against the Joker movie. And oh boy, people love their Joker movie. Don't I know it? People have just gone insane. They just wet themselves all over the place because I dare criticize the Joker movie. How dare you? And why? Why? Again, not because, those people who just like the movie and don't agree with me, they don't care what I'm talking about. They don't worry about it. But a lot of people, support of the Joker movie is part of their self-identity as an anti-SJW, right? All of their favorite YouTube high priests have said, this is the way you need to be an anti-SJW, support this movie and don't like this and support this person, but not that person and so forth. And the Joker movie's part of that. The Joker movie's part of their battle flag, So when supporters of Cruella are pitting it against the Joker movie, well, they're getting you to come out and talk about Cruella and hopefully watch it so that you can actually, I need to watch it so I can really compare and show people how much cooler the Joker is and whatnot. There are differences, sure. The point though, is that they're both villain-centric films. They've got you just flatly accepting villain-centric films. You think you're arguing, against one film and another, and you're arguing for one thing and not another. No, either side of that argument, you're cool with villain-centric films, so Disney can keep on making more of them and bringing people in. And the villain-centric films, as we've talked about in previous streams, are the ideal vehicle for their outcast, minority, victim ideology. And they started doing that too. So this is one of their tactics. If we have something new we want you to accept, we'll pit it against something else so that you'll either accept the premise or something like, in a different, slightly different example, the Masters of the Universe Revelation. Now they're trying to pit, and I've seen this a number of places, the Masters of the Universe Revelation series against the She-Ra series. And I've heard this argument. Oh my gosh, if your defense of a series or a franchise starts out with the two words, at least, then that's no defense. And that's what people are saying. Well, at least the Masters of the Universe series isn't going to be as bad as the She-Ra series. At least the character designs are better than the She-Ra series. At least, at least, that's no defense. That's not in any way a justification for supporting this garbage. I mean, at least, as I always go to, my go-to example here, at least this bowl of ice cream of dog poo in the ice cream dish has sprinkles on it. That doesn't make it okay. That doesn't make it something you should go eat or consume in any way. It's but they do these tactics. They know that people identify. They identify so strongly with being part of this ideology or against this ideology. This anti-SJW syndrome. And what I mean is, of course, we're all here. I would say we're anti that ideology, but there's an identity that's kind of like a community that's kind of arisen, and not everybody in the community is culpable of this or anything, but there is a community mindset that okay, well, this is who I belong to. I belong and I identify with the anti-SJW ideology, and so we have to support this kind of thing and not this kind of thing. And it's led by certain YouTubers. Some YouTubers knowingly or not knowingly, that they hold sway here, and they, because I've seen this. People have argued with me whenever I speak out against something that goes against that narrative. Whenever I talk about how the Siege of Mandalore is garbage and no one should be supporting this nonsense, and Dave Filoni doesn't know what he's doing, one of the defenses I get is people say, well, so-and-so YouTuber liked it. Well, the so-and-so YouTuber liked it. What has that got to do with anything in the world that I just said? But that's their thinking is, yeah, but if you're against that, then you should be in line with this narrative as espoused from these certain YouTubers. No, you should actually think for yourself, and you should actually not be a part. I mean, we're against ideology. Don't form a new ideology in opposition to the other one. That's not the answer. So they play to that. They know people are in these sort of identity camps, and that's how they can try to get people talking about Cruella and watching Cruella by pitting it against the Joker, because they know people are going to get invested in that argument. This is how they can get people on board, or at least curious about, just to watch it. That's all I need you to do is watch it. The Master of the Universe Revelation series, because hey, pitted against the She-Ra series is better than that. Doesn't matter. It's the same thing. They're both pushing the same agendas from their character designs. It's just in a different way. Very different styles, but the same thing there. I talked about that at length, in depth, in my No Agenda Here, video. So yeah, this is one of their tactics.